आपको ज़्यादा पैसे नहीं कमाने, आपको अपने लिए ज़्यादा टाइम बनाना है.
So when they say time is money, people get it wrong.
Yeah.
Because people think, you know, oh, 5 सेकंड में 2 करोड़ के डील साइन हो जाते हैं. That no. Time is the currency, dude. It's depleting. अगर खुश है मैं तेरे को कुछ बेच ही नहीं सकती.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't need anything.
I can't convince you to come work for me even if I give you $1 million. You'll be like, but why? I'm happy with what I'm doing.
बताइए आप क्या करते हो लीजर के लिए?
यार मैं daydream बहुत करता हूँ. These days, a lot of people will say they listen to jazz. I come back to the same point that if your ears are not tuned, listening for.
Appreciate क्या करोगे फिर?
So it's like somebody, you know, looking at calculus and उसको सिर्फ addition subtraction आता है by.
Equation looks beautiful.
हाँ, it look मस्त लिखा है, कुछ तो complicated लग रहा है. Like ठीक है, wow man.
So you know the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because now you're living in a village, right? I spent the first 19 years of my life living in a village, and then I moved to Mumbai. But it was the other way around for you, right? What's your relationship and history with Mumbai?
Well, that's a loaded question. As of now, my relation with Mumbai is an ex. Okay, so I grew up in South Bombay and at Beach Candy, went to school there. After that, spent maybe about 15 years or so in Bandra. The city as such has never been an ingredient of my identity. I never let that get to me. I associate myself as a Bombay guy or a South Bombay guy or a Bandra guy, because as time went by, I got so preoccupied with my own endeavors that I started sort of funneling that down to one sec. I'm a human being. Okay, then from there it was like I'm a global citizen, or like, you know, like if you extrapolate it, or if you take it, funnel it even low, it's like I'm just a speck in the scheme of the universe.
A triviality on a rock hurling through space.
Exactly, like pale blue dot wala scene. Then all these other things become incidental. Like I happen to be in Bombay. I happen to be in Bandra. Like, you know, so life has taken you snowballing into certain territories, and then while you're there, this is what the scene looks like, you know, so.
This perspective, ये बहुत ही broad perspective है, एक spiritual perspective है. Usually a lot of peers who are from cities, they are not in touch with this side of themselves. जो आपने बोला ना कि अच्छा, the city is not me. I was born there, but I didn't let it become me. What was different for you? Like, what were your influences which, you know, drove you towards this direction?
I think it's interesting that you point out that it's spiritual, but actually it's a bit philosophical rather than spiritual. Because to me, I still find spirituality a little nebulous, like, you know. But if you look at philosophy, it's basically a series of questions that you ask yourself. It's a questioning mechanism. And I think what was really pivotal in this is I come from a very religious family. It all depends on scriptures and mythology, and there were bhajans playing in the house and stuff like that. And there were a series of events where I was not allowed to question anything that was being done. Okay, and I think without being controversial or making it like, you know, a big issue, at a very young age I felt like, you know, religion is one medium where you're not allowed to question. But philosophy is something which
it's based on that.
DNA is to question.
Yeah.
I started finding that the answers that I'm getting don't satisfy my curiosity. You know, in the sense that, okay, why is this being done? Why is this? It's like saying, okay, why is the sky blue? Bhagwan ne banaya.
Yeah. There has to be more.
And I think when I started on this introspective, contemplative journey about, like, you know, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, what is my purpose? Who am I? Like, then all these labels, like, oh, I'm a Bandra kid, I'm a Bombay kid, I'm a I'm a researcher by profession. All these labels stopped mattering to me.
Consciousness wakens.
There's a saying which goes that there's the universe in a snowflake. There's more atoms in us than there are observable stars in the universe, all right? And they're all vibrating at a particular frequency. Okay, and that frequency gets altered depending on our thought processes. Okay, so if you're somebody whose thought process is generally anxious, you are vibrating at a certain frequency inside. That could cause health issues, it could cause peace of mind issues, it could cause sleeplessness, it could affect your social relationships, it could cause the way you seek and receive opportunity in life to move ahead. You know, there could be a lot of bottlenecks that could get created. Let's explore ye, you know, is dabbe mein aur kya hai? Like, what else is there? Can I be a poet? Can I be a singer? Can I play guitar? Can I be a musician?
Everybody has their own meaning for spirituality. My journey to spirituality started with thinking and thought, all right? And when I had explored all schools of thought, nihilism, absurdism, ye sab, wo sab, then I realized that one big thing was missing throughout all of this, which was that thought often lacks emotion. I think gratitude and these broader emotions, right? When I involved them in my thought process, when the feeling came in, I think that's what spirituality is for me. Now you're here in this very beautiful place. Like, how do you feel when you wake up here every day?
It's beautiful, man. Yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, there's a certain calmness, there's a serenity, a tranquility which I won't trade for anything. I won't trade it for anything.
Draw a comparison.
From Bombay to here,
Yeah.
the transition was seamless because this used to be barren land and I built this ground up. Like every tree, every piece of stone, and everything that you see here was imagined and built and brought here. Okay. It used to be barren land. So, in a way, and there were 3 years of COVID that came in the process of building this. All right. So, it took me about 8 years to get this finished. But in that process, it's like, I was already here before I, sort of laid the foundation. In my head, I had already sort of got out of Bombay in that sense. Truth be told, I could live anywhere. It's not like I've always been affluent. I've lived in chawls. I've lived in places where I had to carry my own lota because there wasn't a washroom in my, and I used the common one on the floor in a chawl. And there were various circumstances which made me want to live by myself, but I couldn't afford a home becoming you or you becoming the home. It's about I I think for me it's just an energy transfer. It's something that I've curated a space for myself which allows me to breathe and just bounce through the day, which is very unique to me.
I think this is a good segue into talking about creativity and art. You've curated this space to give you what you need.
Yep.
जो आपने बोला कि आपने visualize कर लिया था. Even before you moved here, you were already here, right? That is the true creative energy that it comes from within and it takes over you. What are your feelings about art and how much time do you spend every day thinking about art? What are the kind of things you think of?
It's 90% of my day, man. For me, art is being able to articulate an emotion. It's about expression, and that expression need not make sense to everybody. The degree of that expression, either in terms of skill, talent, finesse, and on the converse, the depth of that expression, I think it's the coming together of these things that makes it resonate with certain kinds of people, right? So if you have if Bollywood suddenly became too deep and too dark, it would, and didn't have these songs of Sangeet and item numbers and one Johnny Lever character and this and that, people will lapse out. It'll be like, bro, this is getting a bit too deep, but the people who don't want that will go watch world cinema on movie, or they'll go watch abstract films because, like, to give you a very, very real time example, I have a piece of art by this guy called T. Venkanna, which is called The Death of Venus. The Death of Venus comes from Botticelli's painting, which is called The Birth of Venus. All right, and Venus being the goddess of beauty. And so Venkanna takes this spin on saying that, look, if the goddess of beauty is dead, if beauty itself is dead, okay, and if you look at that painting, it's not a painting, but if you look at that etching, I didn't buy it because it looks good. I bought it because it asked me a question that I'll never be able to answer. I wake up every day and I spend a few minutes thinking to myself when I look at that painting that what do I find beautiful? What is beauty to me if beauty is dead? Why would you pay a hefty amount of money to put something that is ugly on your wall?
Ugliness is a notion.
Yeah, I'm saying conventionally ugly, not to me. To me, it's beautiful because of the poetry of its thought. So what is beauty to you? And it's a question I cannot answer. I cannot answer. Yeah, I have the vocabulary to sort of see behind the veil. And I like to swim in that. I like to swim under the water where the iceberg is the largest, not at the tip.
We'll talk about other aspects of your art. What is the art of homestays?
The thing is that what I have found is what makes a good host. Experience has become democratic, commercialized. Okay, like you have a bunch of places that offer you. Let's look at any of these stay, Vista Homes, Airbnb and all. यार रहने को तो जगह बहुत है. Like there's plenty of places where you can stay. So let's take that as the base level. Okay, like I need a place.
छत है, खाना है, पानी है.
Khana hai, this, that, and all. All right. Now let's look at what's not there. Okay, you'll find the decors mismatched. Okay, there's some random upholstery with some random this thing with some random chai cup. That's at a very low level. Okay, you go higher and higher up this price point, and you'll start finding that, oh, the decor's great but the food's not on point, or the food's great and the decor's great, but then there are a whole bunch of people around you who you don't want around you. It's killing your experience. Like, let's say you go somewhere, and don't take me literally, but there's people who are not the right TG. Like they
I'm
don't.
Punjabi. I can say 5 Punjabi guys listening to loud music and
सा
drinking their
ठीक है चल.
alcohol.
So suddenly something like that happens and you're like, dude, I came for peace and quiet and this, that, there's that. Three things that I think we do really well here is, one is to keep it intimate. Okay, so that there's actual sharing of space, thought, perspective, and those kind of things. We keep it intimate. We curate who comes here. The second thing is to be able to hold a conversation with people from many, many diverse different walks of life. So whether there's somebody who comes here talking about Japanese cinema and Kurosawa and this and that, or somebody who's into jazz and different kinds of music, where they want to talk about Charlie Parker, the ability to have a wide spectrum of awareness, so that you can have a conversation with almost anyone from any walk of life, I think is a great resonator. Be patient enough to learn something from them, because let's say that is their passion space, right? And the third thing, which is to have attention for detail, which is like, I mean, this house or this experience is curated to the T. It's not just about the plates or the menu or stuff that we use. We've gone to such detail that even the door handles, okay, have a little cleft for you to put your index finger in, so that when you turn it, it's ergonomically convenient.
Yummy. That's delicious.
Okay, which is, I mean, so it's about putting thought. Every nail has a purpose. And so I think attention to detail, I walk around with tentacles, like my radar is always on here. Because I'm in the wild, there are insects and this, that, and stuff like that, or I have a son, and or when there are guests, it's like almost being able to second guess, okay, this person's going to need water, this person's going to, so on and so forth.
That is the art of hosting. That
I
attention
think
to detail.
attentiveness, yeah, attentiveness, being able to resonate with other people and to keep things intimate, yet like sort of, how should I say, not deep, but just soulful.
Are you always here when you're hosting?
Yeah, I'm always here.
Gaurav is part of the stay.
Yeah, a lot of people say they didn't budget for me. Because they come thinking they'll have, so we're BYOB, we don't like, so what happens is people bring their own alcohol, and a lot of times people come to relax and they bring just a little bit. And the minute we start talking, it sort of becomes this, oh damn, can I have another beer? I'm like, "Yeah, sure." We should have got more or something. So, which is why I was saying.
There's the hospitality angle. There's the finances angle. There's also you settling in a village. Are you a part of the community? That angle. So, what is the business side of things?
I think it's important to understand, or to rather take a step back and ask yourself, why am I doing this? All right. I don't do this for business. Okay. So let's take that, establish that at the outset, which is, this is, yes, we do make money. All right. It is profitable. But however, it's not commercial.
Yeah.
All right. It's almost like saying this is theater or it's Broadway, but it's not out and out commercial Marvel DC cinema.
It's not a commodity.
It's not exactly. All right. So yes, it is commercially viable, but it's not a sellout. So let's establish that at the outset. Just because someone's paying me a lot of money for a long stay, but they're the wrong audience, or I don't think that we will be able to gel together and stuff like that, it doesn't mean I'm going to open this space up for all and sundry. So it's my home, like, to begin with. So that's aspect one. Aspect two is this, that I think, again, coming back to why are we doing this? So like, oh, why am I doing this? Which is, I ask myself this question for every little endeavor, saying, okay, you're writing a song, bro, why are you writing this song? Okay, for who are you writing it? Like, why, what do you expect by writing this song? What is the output that you expect? The reason is really simple, is that, I'm doing this because it brings me happiness. It gives me peace. All right. Living here lends a lot of peace. Meeting interesting people broadens my perspective, broadens my horizon. When other people guess when they walk in, they bring their own energy along with them. And that sort of livens up the space. It sort of starts vibrating a little differently because of the questions they have, or the conversations that we have, because of the things they are passionate about, because of things I can learn from them. And that brings me a lot of joy and happiness. Okay, so at one end we have peace, and one end you have happiness. And I'm a firm believer of this, that there is no business model, there is no commercial business model on the planet that can beat a happy person. Okay, so it's like, तू अगर खुश है, मैं तेरे को कुछ बेच ही नहीं सकता.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't need anything. I
I
have
can't
everything.
I can't convince you to come work for me even if I give you $1 million. You'll be like, but why? I'm happy with what I'm doing, right? So you can't be bought in that sense. You can't win over a guy who's happy. And I think to arrive at this point in life, it has been a process, because one is not always happy when they're a teen, or as you get into the corporate world, you aren't happy, you want more, more CTC, more this, you want to travel, you haven't done that. But TK, once you've been there, done that, you've finished all this, you've seen the grind and stuff like that, I think you arrive at a sweet space where the business is more about evolving as a person. That's, if someone says mind your business, my business is this: to have really healthy engagement, so that both I and the other person, we get to transact a bit in terms of what we've, the osmosis that's happened between two people. That's my business.
My next question was about to be about competition, but you're not competing only, right?
I'm not competing.
Yeah. This is not, you're not competing with BNBs, homestays, dorms. This is for you.
This is not just for me, it is me. If you take me out of the equation, this is just any other place. That you can, I mean, it's the fact that uh, uh, I live here on the property. I'm always engaging with people. I cook I cook certain Konkani meals which are 100-year-old recipes. There's a narrative, there's a lot of, there's a backstory to how I got here. I play songs for people when they come. I play guitar, I play piano, I sing, and like, there's conversations on art, there's conversations on books. I take lovely black and white photography, and that's my send off gift. Give people vegetables sometimes if they are, ready for harvest. So like, make a goodie bag and say, here, take some cauliflower, take some cabbage, take some starfruit, and whatever. So it's not just about, oh, if I'm vibing with someone, I'm like, sure, bro, like, you want another beer? Just like, let's drink, let's chat. So it's all about, yeah, it's all about osmosis, man. It's like, so I don't really see this whole copying thing as a threat, or competition as a threat, because I think what's good art, or what's a good experience, is something that's not templatized, firstly. A, and B is that when you do something that's so individual to you, willy nilly, it's uncopyable. Like, there can't be another Sting. Like, you can't copy Sting's music. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so uniquely that individual. You can't copy Bach. You can play Bach. Like, even Shah Rukh Khan, you can't copy Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah,
Like,
there's only one.
copy, or Seinfeld, you can't copy Seinfeld jokes. You can't copy George Carlin. Like, they're so individualistic, like, in their existence.
This is very inspiring. And what I say inspiring, the flow state and the balance that you've sort of developed, right? And I understand कि ऐसे आता नहीं है. You've put time, effort, and resources into, building it and making sure that it all comes together for you. What's your advice for a 22-year-old like me? Like, this podcast is my passion project. Okay, I stay up 20 hours editing because I just love doing it, right?
Yeah.
But what are some things I should be mindful of? It's going to be a long journey, 10, 20 years, right?
Sure.
क्या क्या दिमाग में रखूं मैं? I
Uh,
want to get here. I want to get to this level of chill and curation around myself.
yeah. So the first, when you say you want to get to this level of chill, I think we touched upon this just a few minutes earlier, which is, start with happiness. Like, I mean, if your happiness is not materially bound, which is to say that, what is it, the process that makes you happy? Okay, and is it the journey that makes you happy, or is it the act of doing that makes you happy? And why I'm saying this is because, let's say that you have दो वक्त की roti, kapda, ठीक है, and you have friends, people who love you, you have family, you have everything that you need, okay, and you have a camera. If you're really passionate, just go out and film. Just go out and like pursue your passion. Sit and edit. पता है ना 2 वक्त की रोटी मिलने वाला है तो you're not going to be on the streets. You have a roof. You have a family that cares for you. You have some friends you can hang out with, and you have a phone with internet. खत्म बात.
You don't need anything else.
ठीक है बाकी एवरीथिंग इज लाइक यार मेरे पास रोलेक्स कब आएगा, मेरे पास लैम्बो कब आएगी, मेरे पास ऐसा विला कब आएगा एंड ऑल दैट. यार भूल जाओ वो सब. Just go out and like a ultra passionate person, just work, make. But during that process, refine. Don't keep making shit for 10 years. So keep pivoting, make something, try and experiment. Okay, this experiment, why didn't it work? Okay, share it with a few people. हाँ ठीक है यार, like okay, what's happening? Is the content poor or am I poor in pitching the content? Then work on yourself. So if you think that the content is great, but यार अच्छा वो अर्नव बना है ना, हाँ ठीक है, okay, start becoming a celebrity then. Yeah. Frame yourself as somebody. Oh bro, Arnav's making this. Join groups where you can establish whether they're photography groups, filmmaking groups on WhatsApp, this, that, internet. Establish some credibility, where you're probably sharing with the wrong people. Yeah. Friends and family might not appreciate your sensibility, but there's another audience sitting somewhere, so you need to pivot over this 10-year journey. So that process is going to land you in a better space, okay? And as long as you're clear, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want this to reach a certain level of scale and success, right? Now, whatever success is your definition, okay? If that's money, if that's popularity, if it's all of the above, or whatever, okay, whatever. So this is step one. Why am I doing this and how am I doing it and how passionately am I doing it and how quickly am I refining myself and being aware of your own BS.
Right. Yeah, अपने आप को क्या झूठ बोलता हूँ मैं? Yeah, like
dude, you suck at this. Okay.
And there's no shame. There's no shame in them.
There is no shame. Yeah. You're great with this, but maybe this you need to outsource. Find a teammate. Yeah. This you can't outsource your own personality, your own go watch 10 movies, learn new angles, read books, educate yourself, learn to talk better, become an extrovert, dress differently. I don't know. Be more present on social media, whatever that is. But be honest, saying that, dude, you suck at this point. You need work. And you have time because you're young. So even if 10 years later, so these are a few of the building blocks, I would say. Once you start getting a lot of work, let's say you're now building your company, you're building your brand, you're building okay, clients, projects aana chalu ho gaya, this, that, you're getting money. This is step 2. Don't spend that money. Do not, just because you've got it and you're 30 and and this I'm just saying because that's what I did. The shitloads of money in the bank and never had a reason to spend that money. I just kept working. No watch or no business class ticket is going to make me happier than okay. So I'm very clear about saving. Find one dream project, sweet spot after 15 years. Boom, park that, build yourself something that was my thought process, which is I was like, dude, I'm not going to spend on nonsensical things. It was very easy to blow up 60 lakhs, yeah, buy a car.
Any money is easy.
Audi Q5 gaya, bro. Acha, theek hai, abhi I need to buy houses, this, that and all. Kya, to you'll be in debt.
Absolutely.
Then theek hai, what does that mean? Ki wo chukane ke liye aur 15 saal kaam karo. Right? You can't jump off the treadmill the minute you're on these kind of debts. So I was extremely practical. I was for myself, for my logic, because I'm not governed by societal thinking. So I'm it's way cheaper to rent a house in one of the best localities in Bombay, let's say Pali Hill, Bandra, which is where we stay and stayed for 15 years and still continue to. It's much cheaper to rent a place, if you look at over the years where you have, I'll give you the math, man. It's let's say 1 lakh per month, okay? Yeah. Let's say broadly, mota, for a functional, practical Bombay house. I'm not talking about a 4 BHK and
a good 2 BHK in a good place, yeah.
यार 2 लोग 2 लोग 3 लोग के लिए क्या चाहिए यार, मतलब एक कुत्ता ये वो
yeah.
It's now that we have a 7-year, we have a child, but and stuff like that, but जो भी है
2 people 2 BHK is more than enough.
More enough. Bro, we stay in a studio, a 2 BHK converted into, it's a practical house. Right. It's a functional practical house. You go to work, you come back, you host a few people, few friends. कुछ 50 लोग का party नहीं रखना है घर पे, ठीक है ना? So it's a very practical place. And the thing is, my logic is this, like, to buy a house as an asset and this and that, where after retirement it will appreciate 20 years, I'll keep working till I'm 55, 60. Arey, bro, dude, I'm sorry. Like, that scene's not for me, because I want to jump off the treadmill as fast as I can. I want to escape the scene.
Yeah, yeah. I completely
I
understand
don't
that.
want any debt. I don't want any, like, so,
सुबह उठ
तामझाम
के
on
कोई
my head.
टेंशन नहीं होना चाहिए. हाँ, मैं
Basically,
जो मर्जी
यार,
कर लूंगा आज मैं,
up doesn't mean be silly, but
Of
like,
course,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
In
yeah.
a way.
Matlab, I want to write 5 songs in this month.
Yeah.
I need that brain space to write 5 songs. I want to learn 10. Now I want to get into Japanese cooking deeper. Like, I want to try these 15 items. And I need my brain space for that. Yeah, I can't like go to work and come back and Saturday को मैं करूँगा and ये वो उसका लोन चुकाना है, ये EMI है, ये है, वो है. अच्छा, फिर पिताजी को इसको इन-लॉज को मिलने जाना है, ये करना है. अरे अभी, like, all these trappings, I have escaped myself out. Step 2 is, yeah, once you start making this money, don't spend it for FOMO.
Right.
Keep it, invest it, park it. Is that jalbazi mat karna. Get to a point where you hit something like a midlife crisis. All right?
Yeah.
Where you're like,
तब
let's say
जरूरत होता है
35,
थोड़ा.
40 or something.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel like, यार हो गया अभी 15
Treat
साल से ये
yourself.
कर रहा हूँ, like
Yeah.
I've been doing this, अभी पक गया. I need some, either I
Yeah,
expand this or I diversify into something else, I figure some other scene out and stuff. हो गया अभी ये 15-20 साल कर रहा हूँ. And that's when you know, okay, I have this now what can I do? And you'll just have a lot of options open.
The big takeaway is that you realize that time is a bigger value than money for you, right?
Yeah.
आपको ज्यादा पैसे नहीं कमाने हैं, आपको अपने लिए ज्यादा टाइम बनाना है.
हाँ, exactly, यार. I mean, so when they say time is money, people get it wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
yeah.
people think, oh, 5 सेकंड में 2 करोड़ के डील साइन हो जाते हैं. No. Time is the currency, dude. It's depleting.
You're earning money so you can have more time to yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that time is going. So we don't have as much time as we think we do. Like, and especially when you're younger, you think, oh, like, I have like so many years. To put it in perspective, I tell you, Arnav, okay, you're 20, you have to work for another 40 years at a job in a cubicle and grow the ranks till you become whatever.
I'd rather die.
And you have 40 years. Now when you look at those 40 years, they'll feel like 4 million years.
Yeah.
So I think if you, by this time, let's say you're slightly mature, like you're 35, 40, whatever. Like, when you reach that stage, knowing that you want peace and calm in your life, right? Knowing that you're not.
That's a given.
That's why we started saying that, यार मुझे एक time पे आके chill करना है ऐसे. Okay, so with that as a given, it's important to keep this as a conscious memory over your growing up years.
Okay, the next bit, which is art and leisure.
Art and leisure. Okay,
Yes.
great.
बताइए आप क्या करते हो लीजर के लिए?
यार मैं डे ड्रीम बहुत करता हूँ. I spend most of my time daydreaming, but that's because I have a concept in mind. Let me give you an example of, let's say building this property. It was barren land, right? Now the way I approach any subject, okay, let's say I don't have the skill set, I'm not an architect, I don't know landscaping, I don't know, seasonality and like weather conditions, I don't have the vocabulary. So whenever I get into a new, let's say I want to become a chef, I need to learn the nuts and bolts of the instrument, okay, which is what are the uses of different knives, what are the uses of different pans, what are the uses of different ingredients, how do they all come together, how are spices different, the culture of something, this, that, not. So I spend a lot of time upskilling myself. Like, and let's take food as an example, or it can be applicable to anything. So if I have to get into cooking, and I tend to look at things from a slightly circular perspective, which is, when I say circular, I mean like I want to be interested in the history of something, in the geography of something, in the chemistry of it, in the mathematics of it, in the design, aesthetic, presentation, look of it, in the how it appeals to different senses, whether I need to learn about texture, a visual appeal, the nasality of it, the crackle and the sound. And so there's a lot of things that go into learning any one thing. So there's a lot of YouTubing, self-learning, R&D, experimentation that I end up doing. So I had to train myself to get better and better and better. It's like, so the way I look at it is that, at any given point, this bucket in my head has dirty water. That dirty water needs to be flushed out with clean water. and then that clean water needs to be mobilized, so that there is some sort of flow to it.
Visual thinker, yeah.
Visual thinking, yes. So I look at it in a very simple sense, and I spend most of my day then. Now I'm trying to get better at singing. So I obsess about the subtleties of learning to sing. I know I don't have 10 years. I want to get at a level of like a working model, like an MVP of sorts.
Yeah, MVP singing.
Yeah, like I want to get to that level where, okay, fine, I can hold an audience. Okay, I can emote the way I want to emote. I know my material. So I tend to obsess about not about what are the rags and what I reduced it down simply to it's a function of biology. Already a function of physiology. I need to learn to breathe better. I need to strengthen my diaphragm. I need to do exercises that make me attuned to my larynx and my vocal cords. I need to learn to rest my larynx. I need to learn circular breathing. I need to be sensitive enough to, feel my vocal cords coming together. It's not an easy thing. I mean, to say we don't pay attention to our vocal cords or we don't pay attention to a sense of smell. So if you're a musician, I won't waste my time learning technique and doing monotonous exercises. The first step is to train your ears. The step before training your ears is to train your brain. And the way to do that is to listen to a shitload of music. So
Yeah,
it like I mean,
absolutely.
the instrument comes a bit later. Like if you can't hear notes, if you can't hear music,
Oppenheimer, can you hear the music, right? It's so important.
yeah, it's so
You
important.
don't need to know how to read sheet music.
So I approach things in a slight. So to answer your question, I spend my day obsessing, and I could be just sitting, and there could be some music playing, and I'm acutely listening. Like it's not background music for me; it's foreground. Like I'm acutely listening to music. If I'm reading, I'm acutely reading from a point of what can I extract from this and apply it to whatever I'm doing, the task at hand. And then I sleep in the afternoon. And
You
then
need to recharge, right?
I
After
sleep
this
over it. Yeah. I
productivity.
spend my mornings doing riyaz, and then
Hmm.
because I have a ton of riyaz to do. Like I have to practice guitar, I have to practice piano, I have to practice singing, and then I have a warm up, I have a cool down from each of these. So I'm going in and out of spaces.
Right.
Then I have to get back to experiments with my food. Then I have to get back to so the day goes on, man.
All of these processes, are they a replacement or an alternative for meditation for you? Like, are you experiencing the same kind of feelings that someone would experience when they're meditating?
See, my funda is very simple. I mean, I like to boil things down to brass tacks. Okay, like jada philosophical and complicated. If you can't explain it to my 7-year-old son, it's pointless.
Fair
Okay,
enough.
so it's like as straightforward for me. It's like I'm a human being. I want to live through my senses. I have senses. All right, I can see. So if I'm getting into photography, I'm exercising my sense. If I'm getting into music, I'm exercising my sonority, my ears. It's a sense. The more acutely my sense is tuned, the greater my output and input equation is going to be. The signal to churn ratio. Okay, if you can't smell only to matlab, or you don't have a eye for photography. They say you don't have a ear for music. So matlab
वो natural होता है somewhat, I think. You know?
नहीं, पर उसको पॉलिश और कल्टिवेट
वो
करने
करना
से
पड़ता
और
है.
नेचुरल होता है, श्योर. Like like they say, do you know this guy called Ronnie O'Sullivan?
No, बताइए.
He's an Irish snooker player, okay, Ronnie O'Sullivan. They say he was born with a snooker brain, like he could understand strategy on the table. Okay, but he had to put in work, no, learn
Of
techniques
course.
and
The
this that
craft and the skill, yeah.
to make a 150 plus break. I live my day thinking that I have to hone my senses, because I know for a fact that when I was born, from the age of 0 to 4, they were pristine, and then slowly they've society or life as this
The slow dying.
yeah, the slow dying process exactly has sort of numbed those senses. So I don't do OTT, I don't do like, so मेरे पास time नहीं है वो सब के लिए. Like for me, meditation बोलो, entertainment bolo, it's like, for me it's just being attuned
Attuned, yes.
is my scene.
What are your plans with making music?
I have massive plans, man.
बताओ.
I have massive plans in the sense that, see, because I was in the corporate space for a long time. By the time I sort of semi-retired, became a consultant, I was 33, and I was working 20-hour days for over a decade. Okay, so it was like super hectic. There was a guitar which was just lying in the house, and I didn't have the time to touch it. And so at 33, I got into studying music like properly, studying guitar and stuff like that. And what you're seeing today is like 10 years of input that's gone in, because I've had the time, I've had the freedom to sort of work at the craft, at the nuts and bolts of things. And now there's a certain sort of glacial plane, like, I'm gliding right now. Like, I've reached a sort of freedom in my connection of my senses, my vocabulary of the instrument or the hardware, the software, the
Second
imagination.
nature ban chuka hai thoda.
Everything has sort of come together. It's coalesced now, in a very smooth fashion. And it's difficult to explain, but I can sense the artist is being born. Like, I found my voice. It wasn't easy. Like, I wrote maybe 300 shit songs, which I would share with friends and stuff, and I would not get a single response. They were like, यार ये तो इंस्ट्रूमेंटल है, इसमें बीट नहीं है, इसमें लिरिक नहीं है. मैंने कहा, मुझे गाना नहीं आता इतना अच्छा. So then that's what I was telling you earlier, that. So then learn to sing.
Yeah, absolutely.
लोगों को beat चाहिए. Like, okay, you can make instrumental music, but then it should have a certain ebb and flow to it. So I had to learn to make instrumental music which was captivating.
Jazz is instrumental music technically,
Yes,
right?
yes. So
A movie is playing as the song is going, right? There are
it's much deeper. See, jazz is a very different concept. Like, when you look at jazz and classical music, these days a lot of people will say they listen to jazz. Oh, I listen to jazz and stuff like that. Now, I come back to the same point that if your ears are not tuned, if you don't know what it is that you need to be listening for,
appreciate क्या करोगे फिर?
तो appreciate. So it's like somebody looking at calculus and उसको सिर्फ addition subtraction आता है भाई. वो calculus देख के
Equation looks beautiful.
हाँ, it look मस्त लिखा है, कुछ तो complicated लग रहा है. Like, ठीक है, wow man,
Absolutely, yeah.
amazing है, ठीक है. But do you have the vocabulary to immerse yourself and extract something, to be moved by it? You need to know भाषा क्या बात कर रहा है.
You're truly passionate about things, and I think that is what is driving all of this, right? That drive to, like, that curiosity. मुझे जानना है, मुझे करना है.
हाँ, but जानना करना है में, see, my output is a non-commercial output. I just want my senses to get acute. It is, मुझे जानना है in the sense के it's more from a reverse situation of I suck, rather than, I'm like, yeah, why can't I follow through this, this jazz phrase? Where am I? It's not in the, obviously it's not in the art. Like, I'm lacking somewhere, that I'm not being able to appreciate something, but I see that there is depth to it.
Yeah, yeah.
That much acumen I have to say that, okay, fine, there is something that is happening that is very different from whatever. It's making my ears spin inside out. Jazz doesn't have to be fast, blaring lines, like.
Yeah, yeah.
If you listen to Chet Baker, he's so
man.
sensitive.
Beautiful. It's beautiful, yeah.
with the trumpet, like, and his phrasing, and he's so emotive.
बहुत soft और ऐसे एकदम.
But he's found his voice, and for me to be able to appreciate that, I need to have some vocabulary. I mean, to say, okay, fine, I understand where this is going. Like, if he's done a cover of, Almost Blue, Chet Baker.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard the original of Almost Blue, you don't have a reference point.
बिल्कुल भी नहीं. Yeah. It's totally different things actually.
They're two very different songs.
Yeah.
But the color, the love, the pathos that he brings to that.
Chet color, yes.
Exactly. That Chet stamp that he brings, that can only come once his senses are attuned with his instrument. Like, he knows.
Prithvi mein they do jazz on fourth Sundays, right? They bring original Bombay jazz musicians there and they perform their original music. And of course, you enjoy the music because that's the main show, right? But more than that, when you look at a jazz musician, when he's going into his solo, right, he's lost in it. Yeah. He doesn't know what's happening around him, right? And that's even a more beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, that's what they call being hot. Like, so when a jazz musician is hot, it means now he's ready to, like, blaze. Yeah.
And then the solo is done and everybody's looking
fully
at
in
him,
flow. Yeah.
Exchanging looks.
Yeah.
Let's talk about food.
Yeah.
Food के साथ क्या रिश्ता है? Did your mom make beautiful food for you? Do you have memories?
Dadi more so.
Yeah.
So my mom passed away when I was very young. So that's a situation. But my dadi loved cooking, and she'd give us, give me errands, like sit in the kitchen. And we're talking about smallish kitchen, when we were younger and stuff like that. The thing is, she'd be cooking and she'd give me silly errands like peel these cashews, crush these peppers, some simple jobs. She said, take these 10 coconuts and remove the husk. As they say, shendi nikal, like, or whatever it is. So she'd give me these errands and I'd be sitting there and she'd keep talking to me while she was cooking. And at that point, what happened is, when the masalas are being roasted, you tend to cough. You're like, okay, fine. Subconsciously, all the processes start entering my brain. It's kind of aroma that the kitchen is filled with. Or when you're roasting, let's say, coconut and onions together. Whatever it is, like
Yeah.
whatever the ingredient was, whatever the dish she was making, she'd keep talking to me about her childhood, how she would, be cooking back in the village and, with her sisters and like, so there's a lot of emotion that went into this, the cooking that she did, and there was a lot of experience, sensory experience for me as a kid when I was sitting in there in the kitchen with her. When my dadi passed away, I wanted to replicate her what she made and to keep her memory alive. Whenever I could, she'd be like, I'd moved out and my dadi was living by herself, and like every Sunday we had this thing where cousins would come to dadi's house to cook, to eat, sorry. And she'd make us a lovely meal, like a very soulful dadi ka khana kind of meal. And then when she passed away, you're like, dude, we missed that food, man, like on a Sunday. And how do I get back? Like, how do I get back? Ab to khud hi banana padega.
And it's not just a dish you're preserving, it's the process and the story of that dish, which is unique to your grandmother, right?
It's highly nostalgic. It's very different from what you get in restaurants and stuff like that. It's Konkani food because that's where we come from, close to Karwar, like, Palolem beach and stuff, if you've heard of it. So I'm
Yeah.
like 10 kilometers from there. That's my native space. So that kind of food you won't find in all these restaurants in North Goa. Like,
Absolutely.
these
Absolutely.
250 rupee thalis and all that you get with
Mm.
watered down curries and mass produced food. Maybe some Delhiite who doesn't have any context of Konkan food
खा
might,
लेंगे वो खा लेंगे I'm
हाँ, वो
sure
उनको
I'm
गोवन
sure
खाना करके गोवन करी यमी यमी करके खा लेंगे, ठीक है, बट इट डजंट कट फॉर मी. आई नीड समथिंग मोर कॉम्प्लेक्स, लाइक आई मीन, इन टर्म्स ऑफ लाइक फ्लेवर कॉम्बिनेशंस एंड स्टफ.
वही commercial versus purposeful वाला
Soulful, bro. Like, I mean,
soulful, yeah.
let's just like kind
Yes.
of that's kind of the theme that drives me.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the Konkan food? Because I'm a foodie, I'm a Punjabi, and for the longest time, my food was very limited into that realm. But then, as I grew up, we would start traveling to Himachal. Himachal में जाके I was exposed to Tibetan cuisine. I was exposed to these Bombay Delhi के लोग जो आके बस जाते हैं हिमाचल में. They bring in Western food. That's how I was exposed to it. Like for the 2-3 meals I have, I need a separate individual meal. Like it needs to be special for me, right? So food is really important. Can you tell me a little bit about Konkan food and
Sure, man.
what should I be looking for?
See, to preface it, Konkan is a belt. All right. So Konkan is, so let's call it a region. It's a Konkan belt hai,
Yeah.
theek hai? Now this belt has elements of South Maharashtra, Sindhudurg and things like that. And then it's got Goa, and then it's got a bit of Karnataka and all, Mangalore and this
Yeah.
that. So now what makes Konkan food interest, and each of these are very different from each other. So let's take one protein. Let's take a fish curry or let's take a prawn curry. Okay, made in 3 different regions. All right, you will find a difference in the redness and orangeness firstly, which is so let's say a South Maharashtra ka curry will be a little more redder.
Yeah.
All right, they use a different kind of chili. The Mangalorean ghassi, as they call it, okay, will be slightly more orangey. This food is based on what was available in the neighborhood, in that
The
area,
geography and
in
the
the geography.
yeah.
So it's extremely simple ingredient based food. Okay, so it's like, what can I do with a few onions, one coconut, one imli ka thing ball, and something, a fish that has been caught, or and prepare something, and maybe a few chilies that have been dried, some pepper and this that blah blah blah, and with the most bare bone basic ingredients at a very low cost, how can I enjoy a lovely flavorful meal with some steamed rice? So this is the simplicity, and the complexity of this food is based on using these few ingredients. Then there are other things, like there are many digestives, there are many aperitifs, many appetizers. Like let's say, you have a kismur, a prawns kismur, which is basically like a Goan bhel
Okay.
made with dried shrimp. That's something that you must definitely
That
try.
sounds really
So it's
yummy.
chatpata, it's a little bhel like. I mean, that's the closest
Like
analogy
shrimp
that I get.
chips or something, but like bhel version of that.
Like a bhel version of it. It's about perspective, like let's say you look at misal, which is a quintessential Maharashtrian Puneri misal. Bombay, you get misal, like whatever, Kolhapuri misal, Arhadi misal. In my neighborhood, there are 7 joints, each of them make a different misal. Okay. Now, to me, this is why I say food is about perspective, because to me, misal is no different from ramen. Okay. What are the, it's like a cow's face,
Yeah.
like a ramen. What you
Yeah.
have a carb.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll get pav, there you'll get noodles. You have a broth. Each broth is different by every vendor that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
it.
Even
Okay.
in Japan, the broths are
Even
different,
in
right?
Japan, the broths are different. Okay. Instead of protein here, you have matki and you have other sort of sprouts and this that which go into it. You have a bit of potato ka sabzi. You have some crunchy bits, which are like your that chuda type, whatever that they put on top. And the concept is basically like it's a ramen.
It is.
It's a coming together of seven,
I
six,
see it. I
seven
can see it now.
things with a broth, and you add more broth if you feel it's
If you
less.
want more gravy,
If
yeah.
you want more gravy.
Yeah.
Concept तो वही है ना.
Yeah.
मतलब in a nutshell. So food for me is like that. कि मतलब it's like saying that okay fine. I'll give a very divergent example. Let's say you want to learn about rock climbing. And if you want to get into rock climbing, I would not look at people who are doing rock climbing. I'd go and look at an ibex. You know what an ibex is? It's a goat-looking creature that scales mountains with little hooves.
Oh, yeah, like they're very good at balancing.
They're very
इतने
good at
steep पे क्यों खड़े
balancing
हो
on.
जाते हैं,
They're
हाँ.
very good.
Yeah.
So they're very. I'd read about how the ibex scale steep cliffs. That would be my probable starting point. So I'm looking at photography. I'm not interested in learning about the camera first.
Yeah.
I'm interested in understanding 2 point perspective, 1 point perspective, dimensionality. What happens if you look at something from down versus you look at something from up, or when you look at the. So I'm looking at the sun, I'm looking at light. Light is my first,
Yeah.
कैमरा गया भाड़ में.
बिल्कुल
Like वो
बिल्कुल.
मैं बहुत
Light is
बाद
the first thing. Light is
बहुत
the
बाद
first
में
thing. Yeah.
देखूंगा मैं कैमरा का
बिल्कुल.
फंक्शंस फीचर्स क्या है, वो तो
बिल्कुल
यूट्यूब
बिल्कुल.
में 10 मिनट में समझ लूंगा मैं.
Yeah, yeah.
That's hardware. Like it's the same thing with music. I like now I have a guitar, I have a piano. अन्नू मलिक के पास भी गिटार है, मेरे पास भी गिटार है. अभी वो how much time he has spent extracting what he can from a guitar or from music. The tool is the tool.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
everybody has the same
Medium है
tool.
बस. हाँ.
But medium है वो. तो I approach thing, fuck the tool. मुझे उससे कुछ लेना. That is motor skills. Like that's just
हाथ बिठा रहे हो आप बस.
हाथ बिठा रहे हो आप. दिमाग को ट्रेन किया तो you go get mileage. It sort of opens up dimensions for you then. So I approach things like that. So people who don't want, there are a lot of people who don't want to go too deep into anything.
Right, right.
Like ऊपर से ठीक है,
Good
मस्त
for
है
them.
भाई.
Good for fine
Yeah,
for
for
them.
someone who never been to Japan or never कहीं भी टाइगर या की इधर उधर
मैगी
कहीं भी रामेन खा लिया भाई, उसको तो अच्छा ही लगेगा. उसको
Yeah.
बस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ही नहीं है.
Yeah, yeah.
कोल्हापुर में जाके रामेन खाओ, यू थिंक इट्स गोइंग टू बी, मतलब पता नहीं है क्या. यू गेट माय पॉइंट.
I do. ये आप एक इमोशनल या एक एक्सपीरियंशियल रेंज की बात कर रहे हो. दिस जो एक स्पेक्ट्रम है ना. Most people are somewhere on the spectrum, right? But a very conscious being, a very conscious person understands that okay, ये spectrum है, मुझे अपना spectrum extend करना और हर जगह रहना है. And essentially the art and the creativity. आपने बोला कि you spend a lot of time daydreaming, which symbolizes for me that the world inside your brain is bigger than the world that is actually outside, right? Or you spend more time thinking about the world inside than the world outside.
Well, that's a very good way to put it, because see, I mean, if you go back to what is a thought, thoughts are just waves, all right? Now you can't latch on. Every thought will get followed up with another thought, will get followed up with another thought, will get with another thought, until you reach deep enough where the waves are massive, or there are no waves. Like it could be either way, right? Either there's massive turbulence, there's a storm mid sea. If you're operating at the surface, then you're going to feel all this. The minute you start going deep diving, you don't feel any of that. That turbulence is upstairs. वो ऊपर ऊपर है. So I
आपका
think
element change हो गया.
हाँ?
आपका element change हो गया.
Yeah, so if you choose to operate at everything that's happening at the surface level, of life, so as to speak. You're going to get bombarded and affected by every little thing. My point is that eliminate all that BS so that I can keep my brain clutter free to think about ideas. I get all that vocab, I daydream, and then I'm like, okay, I get to a certain point in my head where I'm like, now execute.
Yeah.
The things that are the most impactful are the gentlest things. And I'll back this up by something, okay? Which is if you take a rock, all right, which is, let's say, the hardest, unmalleable kind of thing that you will find. All right, the three things which are so gentle and delicate that can mess with a rock are air, are water, and the roots of a tree.
Beautiful.
देखा होगा आपने बॉम्बे में बिल्डिंग पे पेड़ उग रहा है कहीं,
Yeah.
right? The three gentlest things that can penetrate or shape something like a rock are water, air, and the roots of a tree. And with this in mind, why I'm saying this is because you will have rocks thrown at you in life.
Yeah.
Okay, if you try to fight a rock with a rock, you're creating explosive situations. As you keep growing older, have a little bit of a step back space to say, can I address this gently? But if you're trying to be a rock that's bulldozing to your 60s, oh man, that's like
Pretty rough life. That's a beautiful metaphor.
So yeah, this is like the last bit that I wanted to just.
Air, water, earth, and there's fire also, guys. You missed out on that one.